The WNBA turns 29 as a new season tips off. Plus, what's the hotter ticket in New York City? Knicks Game 6 or Soto's return to Yankee Stadium? Hi, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today from our FOS studios here in New York City. I'm Baker Machado.
And I'm Renee Washington. Thank you guys so much for joining us each and every weekday as we're chatting the biggest stories happening in the business and culture of sports. We've got a big show ahead, Baker, so let's get right into the shoot-around.
Yes, indeed. And let's start with Caleb Williams, as a new book released in September, Renee, alleges that Bears quarterback Caleb Williams was so concerned about being drafted number 1 by the team last year that his family spoke to lawyers and even Archie Manning, yes, Peyton and Eli's dad, about how Eli was able to force the San Diego Chargers to trade him to the Giants. Now, the book is called American Kings, a biography of the quarterback, and it even quotes Caleb Williams saying about the Bears, quote, "Do I want to go there?" Well, the Bears ended up drafting him, and it seems like now that Ben Johnson's in the picture, things might be okay. But there are some really big allegations in this book, especially that Caleb Williams didn't even have a coach around him during filming. So when he would be learning about game film, he didn't have a coach telling him what to do.
I know. This makes me rethink a lot of those draft day photos that Caleb really was not happy. But I will say, for his dad, Carl, to come out and say that this was the place that quarterbacks go to die. Is he wrong, though? I mean, when you look at the history of the Bears over the many years, they haven't drafted a quarterback since the 1980s.
Yep.
Mitch Trubisky, Justin Fields, the names that we have of quarterbacks that have played with them, those two most recently, haven't had great careers.
True.
So to know they were investigating the CBA and how they could work around it, even considering signing in the UFL, he did not want to play there. He wanted to play with the Vikings. But I don't blame him, actually. You want to go where you can grow. You want to go with a coaching staff you agree with and where you feel like your career has the best opportunities, and Chicago's not that.
Yeah, and
so I don't actually blame them for not wanting to go there.
No, and if anything, you would think Chicago should have fired Eberflus last year before they even drafted him, because he was already sort of on the final edge anyway.
Well, Eberflus and Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator, were two of the guys that they listed as the reason they didn't want to go there. Both have been fired. So again, was he wrong? They're not there. If Chicago didn't like them, neither did Caleb and his family. So I don't mind them speaking out openly about it.
Yeah, very good point. Meanwhile, the NWSL Players Association says that play should have stopped during that scary over 10-minute delay last week between Angel City FC and the Utah Royals. That when defender Savvy King collapsed on the field with a heart abnormality and had to be taken to the hospital for surgery. Now, play resumed once King was taken off the field. The union, Renee, says any match should not continue if a player requires life-saving measures, but luckily she's doing okay.
I agree with them. 20-year-old Savvy King goes down, and as Utah coach Jimmy Coonratz mentioned, players emotionally are not in a good space to retake the pitch and continue playing. We've seen this with DeMar Hamlin and Monday Night Football for the Bills. We've seen this in other sports as well. When a player has such a massive injury where they collapse and it requires ambulance on the field and everyone's praying and concerned, you need to consider canceling the game. It's bigger than sports at that moment.
So true. Even the players themselves had to sort of get themselves together after witnessing what happened to their teammate. Do they even want to be on the field at that time?
Exactly.
Meanwhile, after one of the most successful years in WNBA history, a new season is tipping off tonight as number 1 pick Paige Beckers opens her rookie campaign against the title favorites Nafisa Collier and the Minnesota Lynx. Now, the Golden State Valkyries also open their first season tonight against the LA Sparks. And big matchups tomorrow, Renee. We got a rivalry game of Caitlin Clark and the Fever versus Angel Reese in the Sky. What matchup are you most excited about?
All of them. I'm so excited. We've got 44 games, more than last year's 40. We've got a new playoff format, including a 7-game finals. And then looking at the amount of roster changes, it's exciting to see all the new faces in new places. But I love we've got an expansion for the first time since 2008 with the Dream. And it's going to be fun to see, how does Kelsey Plum look with the Sparks? How do some of these players fit in with their new teams? And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, a lot of big questions. So let's dive into that in today's main event. All right, let's get a preview of the upcoming WNBA season with our women's sports reporter here at Front Office Sports, Annie Costabile. So, Annie, what is the big headline that you are watching as the new season tips off?
I think it's, are the Fever going to win a championship or not? This team, put together a veteran roster around Caitlin Clark, and we already saw what they accomplished in the second half of last season, and it was very indicative of a team that's capable of a lot. So when you consider that they added, again, these veterans like Juana Bonner, Sophie Cunningham, Natasha Howard, there's a lot of reason to believe that this team could make a significant jump. And we're not just talking a jump from the middle of the pack to, semifinals. They really have title aspirations, and it's not unrealistic to imagine them there.
Yeah, this Fever team already with Sydney Colson and just the energy around them feels different. It's exciting. But as you talk about Caitlin Clark, last season we saw historic viewership numbers, the highest across every aspect, including 32 WNBA telecasts that had over 1 million viewers each, the most viewed finals in 25 years. The list goes on. It's a lot from the Caitlin Clark effect, but also just the league in general, doing a number of things to boost their viewership. How do you think they can continue to build off of that Caitlin Clark effect and just even the offseason has brought between Unrivaled and other aspects to build women's basketball?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, as someone who's been covering the WNBA since 2015, I think was my first year covering the WNBA, the really incredible thing to see has been the increased media attention, which has contributed to better storytelling, which has then contributed to more fans being connected to their favorite players, finding new players to be fans of, finding new teams to be fans of. And then when you apply that with, again, this added attention that Caitlin Clark has brought, it created this perfect storm in terms of all eyes, not only just being on the Fever, but being spread across the league because of the attention, again, that's being brought to the Fever and these national games that they're, the number of national games that they have, 41. When you think about, again, the opponents that they're going to be playing against, that's more eyes for those teams. That's more stories that are getting told for those teams. So I think it's just an increase all around in the storytelling that has then contributed to an increased level of fandom.
On top of all of that, This is the final season of the current CBA rules that the players and the owners had basically agreed to. Heading into new labor negotiations, is there more impetus on the owners to get a deal because momentum is on their side right now to get something done and to not sort of impede all the growth that this league has basically has taken upon?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing to consider is the opposite, in my opinion, is the power that is in the players' hands.
Right.
And so these players know their value, and because of that are, again, willing to sit at the table. And so I think, to your point, yes, it would be wise of ownership to not want to, contribute to a potential lockout. But at the same time, that power, again, in my opinion, is in the players' hands because of the rise in attention and everything that they've contributed to in terms of the growth.
They have all the leverage.
Right, exactly. The leverage is absolutely in the players' hands in this situation, and I think they know that. They believe that. And so, yes, you'd love to see ownership and the league make something happen quickly, but if they don't meet certain expectations for the players that the players have, I think the players are very comfortable, sitting at the table as long as is required.
When you talk about that power, I mean, there's so many topics the players are looking to bring up in the new CBA. Obviously, the roster deadline on the eve of the WNBA tip-off Thursday night, we saw players getting cut from rosters, whether it's All-Star Diamond DeShields from the Sun or number 6 2023 draft pick Haley Jones from the Dream. That's been an issue. Salaries, there's so many factors, even just overall resources, in addition to an 11-year TV deal that's in the works, that's coming up soon, I should say. So with all this that the players have in terms of control, do you think that we're going to get a CBA that's going to fit, or are we going to possibly be leading to a lockout?
I mean, I know it's not the goal to have a lockout for either party, but again, when we think about the leverage that's in the players' hands, that could be the scenario if they don't feel like their expectations are being met in a reasonable way. So I know that that's not the overall goal for either party, but again, the players know what's deserved, the union knows what's deserved, and I think they're comfortable sitting at the table as long as is required.
It's going to be really interesting as the 29th season, I believe, is
Yeah.
officially tipping off. Almost 30.
Last
Those are the
year,
best
20s.
years. Last year, the 20s for the W. All right, thank you, Annie Costabile, for that. All right, we got a lot more front office sports today headed your way right after this. And welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today with Renee Washington. I'm Baker Machado. Now, you've probably seen our next guest's basketball content on TikTok, where he's got over 1 million followers on the platform. Well, he just had a really big announcement. After getting multiple D1 offers, he has decided to take his talents, no, not to South Beach, but to China. What an interesting conversation we're going to have right now with Noah Neumann, who's joining us here on the show. Noah, thanks so much for joining us. So tell us, what was the impetus to decide to go to China?
Well, to be completely honest, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited for this. Honestly, the emphasis to going to China, there was a lot of things that went into it. You know, at the end of the day, I feel like God gave me 3 different paths. I had my social media path, the college route, and then, you know, those were really the two that I had for most of the time. And it's been like a really hard choice. Honestly, I didn't know what to do. And then about 4 days ago, I mean, it's been in the works for about 5 months, to be completely honest. And I finally got that call yesterday from the GM of the team, got to talk to the coach. He was like, we would love to have you out here. And I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like it just maximizes the opportunity for me to go down that single line path. I feel like it brings both of them together. I can do my content out there also while being able to have so many more people and, you know, fans that are able to jump onto the wave. So I'm excited for that. And that's probably the main reason why I did that.
Yeah, a call that changes your life to bring the best of both worlds together and have you play, with the Macau Black Bears. And I like how you were saying, Noah, about this opportunity to do something different instead of following what everyone else is doing, and a chance to make history now as the youngest American player to play professionally in China. What does that mean to you to be a trailblazer in that regard of helping show others, maybe like yourself, that had that same dilemma of which direction, content creation or pursuing their sport, to give them an opportunity to show there's a possibility that's out there as that third path, as you mentioned?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for one, I feel like it's great for me because, I mean, I feel like I've always been different in that realm of, like, you know, just like the basketball things. And I feel like I've taken like a different path, not trying to be like cocky or anything, like just genuinely serious. Like I stopped high school. I did homeschool for the longest time. We took a year off and traveled the world and everything. But I feel like the fact that I was able to make this mark on history, I feel like also for like the other kids that are out there that are like, you know, or might be in the same position or don't feel like college is fully for them. I feel like opening a new door to that is super excited. It's super exciting for me because I'm creating a path for other people. And I mean, that's probably the main thing. I mean, I think it's pretty awesome.
Well, I also feel like the social content creation has sort of helped you because, look, yeah, a lot of players obviously are getting good NIL deals, but not a lot of them are creators like you are as well. Do you feel like that helped you in any regard here?
Absolutely. I mean, there was definitely downsides to it. There's downsides and there's upsides. Talking on the downside part first, I mean, for one, whenever I was playing AAU basketball, you know, college coaches are super serious about that, which, I mean, honestly, I feel like a lot of them didn't think that I was taking basketball in the most serious route just because I was doing social media every other day. And I mean, at the end of the day, it was a job. Like I did take it very seriously. And I feel like that's why I'm at the point that I'm at right now. But, you know, I feel like for one, there's some coaches that did like it because at the end of the day, it did bring in NIL and stuff along the lines of that. And also, for one, it brings in more sales for fans, for sure. And it makes their team bigger, you know? So I feel like it was a upside, downside thing that some coaches liked, some coaches didn't. But at the end of the day, I don't regret any of the decisions I made. I'm beyond happy with where I'm at right now. And I actually have news that hasn't hit yet.
Oh.
That if y'all are interested in hearing, I would love to share.
Yeah, break it, please.
This
is your
here?
opportunity.
You can't tease it out like this and not tell us, Noah. We're friends.
Scoop it out.
So 45 minutes after I committed, we went outside. I was with my agent. Shout out to Justin. We're outside. He gets on a call. He's talking to the owner of the TAT and, you know, the GM, COO. And long story short, I'm still playing for the Macau Black Bears, but I did get traded up to play with the CBA team for the Long Lines. So
that is
super excited for
that. News. See, the news
so
just keeps getting better.
It's basically like I got a call and it was like, you're going from the G League to the NBA real quick.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh my God. And the best part was all my best friends were out there. The family was out there. So I was like, Oh my gosh, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Congratulations.
But yeah, it's finally out. I said it here and today. Front office sports, baby. There we go.
Front office sports getting the big scoop
my
and
gosh,
exclusive on this.
Noah.
Congratulations, Noah. Back to the social media aspect here. What do you sort of think are the content opportunities that you can make in China? I mean, have you ever been there before?
Especially with this promotion now, too.
I mean, definitely the biggest thing, the best thing about China is China, they have 800 million basketball fans at the end of the day. It's the biggest sport. It's their biggest sport out there. We got football over here, other countries, soccer, stuff along the lines of that. When I did take that whole entire trip for a year around and traveled, the one place we didn't go was China, surprisingly. So it is crazy because I do leave in the next 7 days.
Wait, so hold on. So you are going to play for a team and you haven't even been to the country yet.
Wow.
Wow.
Talk about stepping out on faith.
I'm excited.
What a new adventure.
I don't know what my mom, she's a little nervous. I'll say that. I feel pretty good. I actually have a really good friend that's playing on the same team as me, so I'm excited for that.
Okay.
The only thing that I'd say that I'm nervous for is probably the language barrier. But back to your question, I mean, the way that I'm going to maximize it is probably, get new merch out there, pump out different videos, get on all the Chinese social platforms and stuff, stay respectful towards everything. And then, at the end of the day, whenever I get back to the States, probably that's when I'll start uploading everything. Just in case,
Yeah, wow. This is, there's going to be such a big audience that it's going to fall in love with Noah and everything.
This how
is
this
so
continues
cool.
to play out for you, Noah.
Thank you, guys. I'm praying for it.
Well, Noah, congratulations on the news. And by the way, thank you for coming and breaking it on this show. We're very happy to have you do that here. Noah, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the trip, and congratulations again.
And best of luck to you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. Seriously, I had a great time.
All right, Noah Neumann joining us here on Front Office Sports today. God, how do we even top that?
I know.
We're going to talk about the Seattle SuperSonics and this amazing museum of all of their stuff that didn't make the trip to Oklahoma City coming up next. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today with Renee, and I'm Baker. We have a little Front Office Sports Friday feature for everyone, our very first one we've ever done. Now, 17 years ago, Renee, a lot of NBA fans in Seattle were crushed when their SuperSonics made the big move to Oklahoma City. But what a lot of people don't know is a lot of those old artifacts in Seattle are still there. They didn't even make the trip to Oklahoma. So let's bring in Front Office Sports reporter Alex Schiffer, who is covering this for us. Alex, good to see you. So what did you end up finding in Seattle?
First of all, first Friday feature.
Yes.
What do I win?
Yes.
What do I win?
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
You win Sonics memorabilia is what you get.
Yes.
I don't know if I can get my hands on that, though, given it's been in a warehouse all these years.
So what is in there?
Yes, tell us more.
A little bit of everything, honestly. They have the retired jerseys. They have the 1979 NBA championship trophy. A little inside the box one, since we're all some 90s kids in here, they have a signed Nate McMillan shorts and shirt from his appearance on Bill Nye the Science Guy.
I think I remember that episode.
Talk about a throwback. Yeah, so a little bit of everything from stadium promotions to radio broadcasts to the stuff you saw hanging in the arena when the team left.
Now I have the Bill Nye the Science Guy jingle in my head.
Bill, yeah.
But I will say it's interesting. I know you mentioned in your piece how the Oklahoma City Thunder view themselves as more of an expansion team versus a team that relocated. And as we now know, a lot of their history did not relocate with them from Seattle. So when the NBA brings up expansion, and Seattle is always one of those cities, that makes it even more interesting knowing the rich history that's still in Seattle that was left behind.
Yeah, obviously there's been a lot of expansion talk, and we might, once the Celtics sale closes this summer, maybe this fall, we start to hear more word on that. But you don't really hear about a lot of teams that have a warehouse full of stuff ready to roll whenever the team gets back. It's not like the Golden State Valkyries were sitting on all this merchandise when they start play Friday. So it's definitely a unique situation compared to what we've seen with other expansion franchises, for sure.
Well, so why is it that Oklahoma City doesn't recognize their history? What's sort of the impetus there?
Especially with the success of the SuperSonics.
Yeah, it's not
that's what makes me most surprised.
It's not like the Sonics were a terrible team.
Yeah, I think the nature of the exit, given how tough it was on that part of the country, is probably some of it. And I kind of think that there's a bit of a silver lining of how the Thunder have handled all this, right? There's all these throwback nights now. You see teams going into their old uniforms. They haven't touched any of that. They still kind of respect the retired numbers thing from the Sonics. So it's been interesting how it was a really ugly breakup, but they've sort of done their own thing and it's kind of worked out for them. And I think from a reputation standpoint and optics standpoint, it's gone well for them. But to your point, there is a lot to tap into there that they've just respectfully looked the other way on.
Yeah, really carrying themselves as two separate franchises, like a messy divorce. And I'm interested in your thoughts on if this is going to maybe bring some, as we're having this conversation, more of these conversations around why the Oklahoma City Thunder need to embrace that history versus turning their back off of it.
Yeah, I think there's some of it where Oklahoma City didn't have a professional sports team really before the Thunder, so they, I had someone today tell me that they don't really know what, like there's people who've been there long enough to know what it was like before the Thunder came. So I think that that's a bit of it, and I just think that it's not like they moved within the Pacific Northwest, right? I've been to Seattle, I've been to Oklahoma City, they're two very different places. One is Bluebell ice cream, the other does not. But
I want ice cream too.
Yeah, they got the fish market.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
right.
You don't need Bluebell when you got the Space Needle. You don't need any of that. Of course, you can read more of Alex's feature on the Sonics and all the history that they have up in the Pacific Northwest. Still there for everybody to look at over on frontofficesports.com. All right, everybody, let's see what's bubbling over at the FOS water cooler. Ooh, this is a Friday, Renee, New Yorkers only dream of. Temperatures are in the 70s. The Knicks can eliminate the Celtics in Game 6 over at Madison Square Garden. You also got Juan Soto and the Mets returning to Yankee Stadium. And don't forget Shakira. She is shaking her hips over at MetLife over with Pitbull. I mean, I was shocked, Renee, at the average price for all of these events happening. The average ticket for the Knicks game tonight, $1,200. The most expensive one, $37,428. The average ticket price for the Yankees tonight, $230. Shakira's not any less cheap. It's $227.
Yeah, shout out to our friends over at TickPix for giving us those numbers. And honestly, lots of tickets that are going for sale. One ticket you can't buy right now is on New Jersey Transit because there's a massive strike that has had an impact on all of this, including some of our commutes to work. But I will say, as a non-New York sports fan, I'm not as excited about this day. But I'm happy for the city. Great for them because, listen, you have a team like the Knicks. We already talked about the crazy ticket prices for Game 3 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. They're now trying to get their first trip back to the conference finals for the first time since 2000. Their first time that they're looking to close out at home at the Garden since 1999. How old were you guys in 1999? I was only 7.
Well, also, what reaction do you think Soto's going to get, going back to guess? I mean, by the way, he's counting his $750 million.
I don't think with that $765 gazillion, aka $1 million he's been paid out in that contract that he cares. He's already even said it's going to be 50,000 versus 1. He's ready for the booze. He said he's not surprised by anything that Yankees fans do. And so he's going into this Subway Series, which is always crazy, with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. So I'm happy for this.
I just realized
moment.
If New Jersey Transit is having some issues, how is everybody going to get to MetLife to see Shakira?
Oh, that's already been shut down. Somehow they're finding a way to get to that sold-out show, and maybe everybody's carpooling. I don't know.
Guys, by the way, thank you so much for joining us this week on Front Office Sports Today. Big week of shows next week. We'll also know who's going to be in the NBA Conference Finals. Please be the Nuggets.
I don't know.
Enjoy the weekend, everyone. We'll see you later.
Bye.